Over the past 2 months, I've been using the V2 Keychron Q1 mechanical keyboard, and honestly, I'm pretty thrilled with it. This is a 75% wired keyboard that targets the upper entry-level enthusiast market by offering an elegant design that's nearly 100% customizable, allowing you to alter as much or little as you wish while you discover more than you ever thought possible about what makes a keyboard click. In the interest of full disclosure, Keychron Canada sent me this keyboard at my request, but as always, they had no input in the video, and what follows is my honest perspective, so I'll do my best to point out both the things that I like and dislike about the Q1. That said, let's get started. Like most of their other keyboards, the Keychron Q1 can be purchased as either a bare-bones kit, which includes the case, plate, foam, stabilizers, and PCB, or pre-assembled, where you choose between a few different case colors and switches, as well as color-matched PBT keycaps. The most important choice is whether you want the standard version or the knob version, which includes a rotary and push knob in place of the insert key in the top right corner of the keyboard. This will change which PCB you receive, as the knob is soldered onto the keyboard and has firmware implications. Depending on whether you opt for a bare-bones kit or purchase a fully assembled knob version, the price varies between $219 to $258 Canadian or $159 to $189 US. There's also a newer Pro version of the Q1, which adds Bluetooth connectivity powered by a 4000 mAh battery, as well as a polycarbonate plate, and Keychron's version of the Pro switches and keycaps. This will set you back another $18 Canadian or $10 US, and only comes with the knob. Personally, I opted for the fully assembled 2nd edition knob version of the Q1, in this special edition champagne gold color with factory lube tactile brown Gateron Pro switches. I think it looks really smart and gives off a kind of Saharan coffee vibe with the white, beige, and brown keycaps. And here's how it sounds right out of the box. The Keychron Q1 has pretty minimalistic styling. Starting on the underside, there are 4 soft silicon feet, as well as 8 gold-colored socket head cap screws, which connect through to the case top as a part of the gasket-mounted plate system. Moving around to the back side, there's also not much going on aside from the USB-C keyboard connection port, as well as the Windows Mac toggle switch. The keyboard is angled from front to back at roughly 5.2 degrees, which is comfortable for typing, but I would have liked to have seen some adjustment to this angle in order to allow me to make it steeper. The keycaps on the Q1 are sculpted with what Keychron calls an OSA, or OEM spherical angled profile, which gives each key a bit more of a rounded look while retaining a comfortable shape, as well as a concave left to right dip that helps with centering your fingers while typing. Each keycap is constructed with double shot PBT, which is oil and wear resistant and feels quite nice to the touch, with only a few minor font variations, such as the slightly taller E's on the Enter key, or is it that the N is a little thinner? Either way, the Keychron Q1 is a very nicely formed 75% 81 key plus knob keyboard that looks pretty awesome. Speaking of the knob, it's also aluminum and has color-matched knurled finish that blends really well and functions as you'd expect, providing tactile rotary and push controls that can be modified with VIA. I have mine set to control the volume and play pause, as well as to launch the screenshot app on Mac when paired with the function key. Opening up the Q1, we see that the top and bottom cases are CNC'd out of solid blocks of aluminum, which gives the keyboard its substantial 1.84 kilogram weight. The base includes a little case foam as well as a thin sheet of plastic to help dampen out any case ping, though this is predominantly handled by the silicon force brakes, which were included in the redesign of this second version of the Q1. Disconnecting the daughter board for the USB connection and unscrewing it from the top case, we release the PCB plate assembly, which includes a nice thick slab of plate foam, as well as pre-lubed screw-on PCB mounted stabilizers, Gateron hot swap sockets, and a steel plate. We can also see the foam gaskets, which connect the plate to the case, allowing it to float and flex comfortably in response to your typing. By default, these are installed in 4 locations around the plate assembly, but there are some extras included with the Q1 if you'd like to add more to the blank spots to increase the keyboard's stiffness. It's also worth noting that the PCB has south-facing LEDs, which help to make the most of the backlighting on this keyboard. This is definitely a selling point. And as we see under the spacebar, the Q1 is both QMK and VIA compatible, which means that you can tweak the key functions, add macros, and alter the backlight effects, unlocking many more options for customization. The Q1 comes with some pretty robust backlight effects and controls right out of the box. By default, the backlight controls are on layer 1, which is accessed by holding down on the function key. This allows you to toggle forward and back through the backlight modes using the Q and A keys, while the WS, ED, RF, and TG pairings control the brightness, hue, saturation, and speed of the backlight effects. All in, there are 22 built-in backlight effects paired with 32 steps of hue or color variation, which allow for a good amount of variety and help to make the Q1 appear really vibrant. To accompany the Q1, I also received 2 extra accessories: the wooden Keychron palm rest, which really complements the brown tones of this champagne gold color theme, as well as the Q1 carrying case. The palm rest is pretty simple, extending 80mm out from the front of the keyboard with a shallow curve to support your wrists while typing. The natural wood feels very nice and has 2 rubber pads on the underside to keep it in place while in use. My only issue with the palm rest is that mine is a little warped, causing it to wobble when I press the front right edge, but I'm sure this is something I could fix by peeling back the rubber on one end and adding a few layers of tape between it and the wood. The carrying case is also quite nice, though probably not for everyone, as the Q1 is pretty heavy, so you have to be quite dedicated if you're going to lug it around with you. That said, the case's honeycomb canvas bumps look pretty neat, and the rubber nylon handle is quite comfortable. The case is thinner than I expected, which is nice, but it's also a fair bit longer than the Q1. I suspect the company uses the same external shell for multiple keyboard models and just changes the soft internal structure to match the shape of each to cut down on inventory costs. Regardless, it offers a good amount of protection, and the extra space is handy for storing a spare USB cable. All things considered, I'm really enjoying my time with the Keychron Q1. I've received nothing but compliments when using it in public, and I've been very impressed with the construction and general thought that's been put into combining all of these components for a really good experience right out of the box. In my previous video, I shared how I 3D printed TPU sheets to sit between the switches in the PCB plate assembly, and this, in addition to the Tempest tape mod, are the only real modifications that I've made so far. That said, I'm not a huge fan of how the cap locks is only indicated by altering the color of the underlying LED. This is pretty common and really minor, but can be a little challenging to see unless you look directly down over top of the keyboard, because they aren't shine-through keycaps. Aside from this, you may have to flash the keyboard firmware before customizing the knob controls using VIA, and you'll want to ensure that you have the correct firmware for your specific version of the Q1, as there are several different ones depending on whether you have the knob or a normal keyboard and whether it's a special edition or not. That said, I would definitely recommend the Q1 if you're looking at a solid platform for mechanical customization, though I'd encourage you to maybe check out the Pro version if you think that you would use Bluetooth connectivity, because it doesn't cost that much more. If you're interested in either, I'll leave a link in the description to Keychron.ca, where you can use the promo code JAKESAVE5 to save 5% on most things. Unfortunately, the Q1 is excluded from promos right now, but if you're picking up a palm rest, carrying case, switches, or another keyboard, it may be helpful. Otherwise, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.